September 28, 1972. Canada erupts as Paul Henderson scores, uniting a country that suddenly believes in itself. But beneath the pride of the Olympics, Medicare, and booming factories, early cracks begin to form. The truth about daily life in Canada in the 1970s is far more complicated, and what changed everything is not what you might expect. Everywhere you looked in the 1970s in Canada, public life felt anchored by shared rituals and trusted institutions. When the final buzzer sounded in the 1972 Summit Series, living rooms from Sydney to Timmins erupted with cheers. Radios blared across kitchen tables, and for a moment, it seemed like every household in the country was holding its breath together. That same sense of collective pride played out again during the Montreal Olympics in 1976, as crowds packed into Parc Jean Drapeau and millions watched from home. The Olympic Stadium's soaring roof became a symbol of ambition, even as its construction disrupted neighborhoods and ran far over budget. Beyond the headlines, changes unfolded in quieter ways. In 1971, the rollout of universal Medicare meant every Canadian could visit a local clinic without worrying about the bill. Schoolyards in Vancouver and Toronto began to reflect new policies, bilingual signs, multicultural festivals, and classrooms filled with children from every background. For many, the system worked. You could trust the schools, the clinics, the CBC on the living room radio, recalls one longtime hockey fan. These moments, big and small, shaped a sense of order and belonging before questions of work and wages took center stage. Shift changes at the General Motors plant in Oshawa sent a steady stream of workers onto the sidewalks, lunch pails in hand, ready for another day on the line. In Sudbury, the rhythm of life pulsed with the mines, nickel from Inco fueling both the local economy and the dreams of families who counted on Union One paychecks. One auto worker remembers that his paycheck bought the house and the station wagon, and he felt secure. That sense of stability came with a union card. The United Auto Workers and United Steelworkers negotiated contracts that promised overtime premiums, health benefits, and pensions after 30 years on the job. In Quebec's Abitibi region, pulp and paper mills kept small towns alive, while out on the British Columbia coast, forestry crews worked log booms and mills that ran shifts around the clock. Prairie families measured time by the grain elevator and the season's harvest. Across these regions, strong unions meant that, for many, a factory wage could support a family, buy a home, and plan for retirement. But as prices began to creep up, the question lingered. Would those paychecks stretch as far tomorrow as they did today? In January, snowbanks lined the streets so high that kids tunneled through them on the walk to school. Municipal crews worked through the night, their plows leaving ridges at the end of every driveway. A teacher from Winnipeg remembers the blizzard of 1977, when the city nearly disappeared under white. In prairie towns, the cold drove families indoors, where community halls filled with card games, church suppers, and the warm hum of conversation. Winters built a quiet solidarity. By June, routines shifted. Schoolyards became gathering spots for end-of-year picnics, and the first Winnipeg Folk Festival drew crowds from across Manitoba, folk songs mixing with the smell of bannock and barbecue. A Vancouver grocer remembers that festival weekends kept the shop busy from dawn to dusk as people rushed for fresh bread and drinks before summer parades. In every region, seasons shaped daily life. Summer brought out block parties, baseball games, and neighbors sharing stories over backyard fences. gas stations posted new prices almost every week. And by the end of 1973, the numbers on the boards had doubled. The OPEC oil embargo sent shockwaves through Canadian wallets, with heating bills and gasoline costs rising by more than 50% in some cities. For families in suburban Toronto or Winnipeg, the drive to work or the grocery store became a careful calculation. One homeowner from Scarborough remembers that they started combining errands and carpooling with neighbors. It felt like every trip cost more than the last. Grocery receipts showed the difference too. Bread, milk, and coffee all climbed steadily. By 1979, the Consumer Price Index was nearly 12% higher than the year before. Politicians in Ottawa and Edmonton traded letters and headlines over who should control oil revenue, and Alberta Premier Peter Lougheed demanded a larger share for the province. Across the country, the conversation around the kitchen table shifted from planning summer trips to worrying about mortgage payments and stretching each paycheck just a little further. In October 1970, armored vehicles rolled through the streets of Montreal and soldiers guarded government buildings as the federal government invoked the War Measures Act for the first time in peacetime. The Front de Libération du Québec, called the FLQ, had kidnapped a British diplomat and a provincial cabinet minister, setting off weeks of fear and uncertainty. Nearly 500 people were arrested without charge. Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau's televised response, "Just watch me," became a household phrase. For many, the sight of troops on city corners broke the illusion of calm that had defined the decade's start. By November 1976, the mood in Quebec shifted from fear to political excitement as the Parti Québécois, led by René Lévesque, swept to victory in the provincial election. Crowds filled Montreal's streets, waving blue and white fleur-de-lis flags, celebrating the promise of a government committed to Quebec's sovereignty. The PQ victory brought new debates about language, identity, and the future of Canada. For families across the country, these events made unity and security feel less certain than before. The confidence of earlier years now shared space with questions about what it meant to belong in Canada. Canada's promise of stability shaped generations, but the questions it raised still echo today. How we balance security and change now defines our future. Thanks for watching.